Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner Patrick Mooney, and if you're watching us on YouTube, you see that we have a third host with us, a guest today, Jon Lester, world champion, multiple world champion Jon Lester. Thanks so much for joining us, Jon. How are you doing? How's the 10-year reunion stuff going? How crazy has this year been so far? And are you looking forward to getting back to Wrigley and being honored soon?
Yeah, it's been great. We obviously started off with a bang in January with the Cubs Con and all that stuff, and it was great to get back and see the guys and get up to Chicago and all that stuff. So, Cubs have done a great job with all that stuff, obviously, and I look forward to getting up there in a few weeks. I got a busy few weeks with kids travel baseball, and then be coming in hot to the reunion on the 17th or 18th, whenever it is.
Yeah, that travel baseball can run your life. I know that. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's your Uber rating now as a driver? Still 5-star?
No, it's far from 5-star. I think if they could, they'd give me negatives. I haven't even got to 0 yet. Somehow, it's bad.
We've been looking to have a former Cubs player on, and to do this more regularly, and we thought of you as a great fit because people ask us like, oh, what's so and so like, and obviously you had a great reputation with people behind the scenes, and what Sahadev and I would laugh about is like you'd be in the clubhouse and you'd always have your game face on. And if one of us would go up to say like, hey, you got a minute? And sometimes you'd be like, what you got? Like, you're always in a hurry. And then we'd wind up talking for like 20 minutes almost every time. And, I was wondering, looking at this, kind of 10-year reunion, do you think, I don't know, do you or do people maybe appreciate it a little more, like how hard it was? I feel like those last several years in Chicago, it was like when's the next one gonna happen? And I think you kind of I don't know, I certainly came away from it like just how hard it is to do what you guys did.
Yeah, I think that was kind of repeated in the clubhouse from the players a lot. After 16, we'd make a run and then come up short in 17 and 18 and even in 19, and you realize that to get to that end game, the end of the season game, where a trophy's on the line, it's very difficult, and a lot of things have to go your way. Obviously, a topic of today will be injuries. You need to be pretty injury free for the majority of that year with your kind of your core guys, and not to take away from maybe the platoon guys or the guys that maybe don't get as much attention on a day-to-day basis, because you definitely need those guys as well. But when your core guys are hurt, it makes that run even harder. And then you need a little bit of luck. You need to get hot at the right time. You need your pitchers you need your pitchers and your hitters to be linked up and rolling at the right times, especially in the playoffs. And that's a big part of it. But yeah, man, it's hard. It's not easy. If it was easy, you would see the same team winning every year or the same teams winning every year. But luckily, that's not the case. You get new contenders in there every year.
Jon, obviously your career with the Cubs was special, and you had a lot of highs. I was just looking at the numbers. You did get off to that slow start when you signed the big contract.
Yeah.
Come to a new city, a lot of pressure, obviously. You figured it out pretty quickly, though. But that first month, I remember the slow start. I don't remember the fan reaction quite as much. But can you kind of talk about the pressure you felt, the idea of, obviously we were watching Alex Bregman struggle right now, huge contract, huge pressure, all that stuff that probably happened to you, different guy, different situation, but still, maybe there was more pressure on you because it was about like lifting this curse and being part of like being this huge key to Theo and Jed's plan to break this curse in Chicago, or whatever you want to call it, long drought if you don't want to call it a curse.
Yeah.
Can you kind of walk us through the emotions and what you were feeling in that first month when things weren't going the way you wanted, and you know how good you can be, and it just wasn't happening on the field at that point in time?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a pitcher, it gets a little harder. At least a position player, you get to get in there every night and try to right the ship, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that first month was probably one of the longest months I've ever had in the big leagues. I wanted the season. I wanted the season total numbers in April, as opposed to just doing what I've always kind of said in my career is like, hey, if I just do my job every 5 days, show up, pitch the innings, and give my team a chance to win, then the numbers will be fine at the end of the year. And, you lose sight sometimes of who you are and what you've done and the track record and that sort of thing. So I think for Bregman, I don't want to speak for him. I don't know him very well. I've met him a few times. I think he might just be pressing a little bit, and wanting to be Bregman, wanting to hit, whatever that 270 to 290 with 25, 30 homers or whatever he's hit the last couple of years. He wants to hit that 4-run homer or the 4 home runs before his first at bat. Like I said, I don't want to speak for him. I don't know what he's going through. He may be banged up a little bit. We don't know that, but I know he's definitely out there grinding, and he's definitely, giving it everything he has. That doesn't make the fans any happier. They want a product. But hopefully he can kind of hold on in that where he's at right now, and then maybe get hot here in the next month or so, and beat Bregman-like numbers towards the end of the season.
Yeah, that's absolutely the hope. Let's Patrick, let's take a quick break before we get back to John here.
Hey, SeatGeek is MLB's official ticket marketplace. And in addition to finding every single game on the MLB calendar, there are big events coming up very soon.
There's an all-star game. There's a home run derby. And if you think you're perfect and you can pick the right seat at the home run derby to get the most home run balls, you can get the little green dot, and that might be your lucky seat. Don't go red dot, though, because you might not get any balls. But go green dot, and get as many home run balls as you think you can catch.
Yep. You click the seat, you check out what your view is. Each ticket's rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. And that's what AJ's talking about. Green good, red bad, with those dots. And the code for you, Territory10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any MLB tickets with promo code Territory10. Make sure you click the link in the description of this episode. That'll help you download the app and get the code automatically added to your account so that you can use it later. Thank you to SeatGeek.
John, I was just curious, when you look back on that start, what kind of got you through it? Because on the position player side, Bregman, Jed was obsessed with this guy for a couple free agent cycles in the same way that, Theo once said I was ready to soak myself in deer urine to sign Jon Lester. Like, when you're kind of going home at night or leaving the park or showing up every day, how did you kind of just push through it and let your natural talents come out?
I think Rossi was a big part of that. I know we were at home. I don't remember what start it was, but he came in and he yelled at me and was like, "Hey man, you can't pitch the 7th inning before the 1st inning. You need to to relax. You need to not worry about it's easier said than done when it's not you, right? Like when Rossi's yelling at me, he's not worried about living up to $155 million, so
yeah.
The biggest line that I took from, the whole interaction was, he's like, "Hey, listen, if you suck, then I get taken out of the game. So I want my 3rd at bat." And I was like, well, that's okay. I mean, solid point. So, that kind of relax and just realize like, hey, we've done this. It's not hard to just go out and compete and quit worrying about living up to 6 years before we've even gotten to the first month. And that was the biggest thing for me, was just trying to, I didn't want to be everybody, when I signed the deal, everybody's talking about, well, is it going to be a bust, or is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? And I definitely didn't want to be the bust. So I think that was just the added pressure of, okay, I want to make sure that Theo gets rewarded for this contract, and Tom and the city of Chicago. And it's a lot. It's a lot of added things. And, once we had that conversation, it kind of really relaxed me. And I think that was towards the end of April, I believe. In the next couple of weeks, I got my first win there. And then it was kind of like, all right. So once you get the first out of the way, you kind of settle in as a pitcher. I know as a hitter, it's probably a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's you as a competitor, and I know Bregman enough and competed against him enough. I know that, he's down there grinding and he's working and he's trying to figure it out. I watch games and see highlights and stuff. And I mean, he's not giving up defensively. He's still making great plays. He's saving runs that way. So he's at least, he's giving you everything he has, even though he's not really hitting to the Bregman status right now.
Yeah, so as April wrapped up of 2015, you had an ERA over 6. May 1st, you made a start. You went 7 shutout against the Brewers, and from that point on, you had a sub-3 ERA for that season. I think everyone who remembers your career with the Cubs knows how, like, you had a great 2015 overall. So that April quickly got put in the rear view mirror. That was a pretty impressive Cubs career as far as anyone's concerned. And with one of the things that is a holdover from that time, one of the people that's currently with the club is Tommy Hoddeby. He was kind of behind the scenes back then, but the Cubs love to kind of trumpet their pitching infrastructure. They've done a good job. They've built out a good group of guys. Obviously different from, you had Chris Bosio and different people behind the scenes helping you guys out. But Tommy was there, obviously rose to a different role now, pitching coach. I'm curious what you saw behind the scenes from Tommy, what kind of helped, whether it was younger guys. I know you and I have had chats about how much the group helped out Kyle Hendricks and what he figured out in that, I believe it was the 2016 season when he really figured some things out. But how important are the behind the scenes things that are going on? Especially nowadays, it feels like a decade ago, it maybe wasn't as, it didn't impact pitching as much as it does now. It seems like there's so much more that pitchers go through and can, the tiniest things with, whether it's, all the info that they have, all the tech that they have, it seems like they can tweak everything and maybe change things quicker than they used to back in the day. But what did you see from Tommy in that group?
Thing with him is he was always prepared. You knew what you were getting from him as far as the information. And to your point, I want to hit on it before I get sidetracked, but the analytical side of pitching has gotten as far as, and I know I was hard-headed when I played about the analytical side of pitches and okay, if you throw this pitch in this zone, it has this percentage of getting hit or whatever. I didn't like that aspect of it, but on the mechanical side of the pitching now, with the analytical and the biomechanics and all the stuff that these guys have access to, I think would have been huge for me. Just being a mechanical and a field person in that aspect, to be able to go, okay, well, my landing foot is X degrees open when I land. And as good of a pitching coach as there are in the big leagues, you can't tell that it's 1 degree open when you land, right? So now you have that information, you have a baseline, you can go back and be like, all right, well, this is what's causing me to be a little bit rotational, or this is why my cutter's flat or whatever. So I do like that aspect of where the technology of the game has gone. As far as the people behind the scenes, I think that they don't get enough credit for the time they put in. They're there before the players. They're there after the players. The life that they live is beyond demanding that, hardly get any praise for what they do. When the players don't perform, they're the first ones to get fired. And, that kind of is that whole hierarchy of things that, I don't necessarily agree with, but we won't go down that road. Anyway, I think Tommy, the crazy part is you're getting towards the end of your career when your coaches are guys you played with. So that was a little, even when Rossi was there, that was a little weird, having somebody that I competed against and with that is now telling you, what to do and what pitches to throw and all that aspect of it. But, I think he's done a great job with that whole analytical side of hot and cold zones and where to attack guys. And, and like I said, to go back to my original point, prepared. If a coach is prepared and giving you, even if you don't necessarily fully agree with the information he's giving you, that he's put in the time and the effort, and that makes your decision, making process out on the mound a little bit easier.
Yeah, I do think that's kind of the Cubs have changed a lot, obviously, since you were there, John. But I think some of that pitching stuff, kind of what Mike Borzello and Chris Bosio, started. Obviously that helped get a Kyle Hendricks in the trade. Yeah, yes, very, very, very old school. But I think that and the great defense as well. I think that was one of the big takeaways from 2016 of like how they've built this team. It's obviously, haven't reached the same heights yet, but they catch the ball, they throw the ball, they make the routine plays, they make the spectacular plays, and that usually plays.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that as a pitcher, when that, especially in a Wrigley, or really in that division, with the exception of maybe St. Louis, they're not exactly easy places to pitch, as far as dimensions and the way the ball flies and all that stuff. But when you're at Wrigley and that if the ball's hit, there's a likelihood that we're going to get an out, that's a reassuring feeling on the mound. And to your point, I mean, you look at the defense. I mean, we had Javi Baez on the bench a lot of the games, for whatever reason. And this guy is probably one of the best defensive multi-position players that you'll see. So that just goes to show you the depth of what we had, on the field. So, yeah, I mean, defense wins championships. Your offense is going to go through ups and downs throughout the season, and so is your pitching. But defense, if they stay steadfast and keep making those plays, I always said I don't necessarily need the flashy play. I need the routine play. And if you had guys on a team that make routine plays day after day after day, that's just going to keep, adding up to those outs. And the faster you get, to 27 outs, usually means that you've won that game. So, that was a big proponent of mine. I try to tell my middle school guys that I've been helping out down here, hey guys, I don't care about, getting necessarily, I want to teach you guys how to play baseball, but at the same time, turning a double play at their age is a little difficult. You don't always have to go for the lead runner, just get outs, because if you guys get outs, the other team's defense isn't as good as you guys. You're going to hit, you're going to drive in more runs. You're going to be on the offensive side. So, at the end of the day, just continue to get outs and usually things work out.
All right, let's take a quick break. I got a question about the roller coaster like season that the Cubs are having.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, the MLB season is in full swing, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to call your shot with daily dingers. Joining the action is easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game, and if you're right, you'll get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home of home runs. So, are you ready to play your game? Head over to FanDuel.com/podcast to get started. That's FanDuel.com/podcast to opt in for daily dingers. Make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball. Swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
John, I remember John Lackey would grumble at us and tell us, you guys act like it's 162 seasons. But it was, I'm glad he said that, because it sticks in my head, and it really makes me remember, these short segments that feel like they last forever. You got to try and put them in perspective. You cannot overreact to 10 games, 20 games, or whatever it is. It's the full season that you have to judge. Still, what the Cubs have gone through has been kind of wild. 2 10-game winning streaks and a 10-game losing streak before we even got to June. That happened. It feels like now it happened a while ago, but it's kind of wild how that happened. You didn't have those extremes that I recall, but you certainly had. Even 16. You had that lull before the All-Star break. The team did. 17, you guys kind of started off at a slog. Obviously, the way 18 and 19 ended, it was, these really tough moments. I'm just curious, how did you handle that? How did you try and stay steady during those? And what are the different things you noticed in a clubhouse that either were good, like this guy's handling it well, or how you had to maybe reset someone or go up to someone? Like, what were some moments? How did you have to help others kind of get through those moments? A guy that I remember watching, at least I watched him struggle, at least when he personally struggled, was Schwarber. Schwarber seems like someone that's really matured in that area, where he'd wear those struggles. And that's something that he must have learned over his career. He can't wear the day-to-day struggles. Obviously he's thriving now and figured a lot out with his career, but that's one guy that popped into my mind that just early on maybe wasn't as great at handling the day-to-day struggles.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say, how the season has gone for the Cubs, because I've never experienced anything like that. If you have a 10-game winning streak, you would like to think that your season is pretty good at some point. They just don't happen that often. And then to follow it up with a 10-game losing streak, that's like the high of the high and the low of the low right there. It's hard. I don't like I said, I don't really know how to answer that. I think to go through a season and like I've said before, you want to be on the kiddie roller coaster, hopefully, and that means it's a good, usually a good season, as opposed to the Six Flags roller coaster, kind of like what the Cubs are going through, right, or went through. The losing sucks. Losing's hard. I think as you get older, you learn to kind of put the responsibility on yourself and not so much the responsibility of the whole team, if that makes any sense. I think to Schwarber's point, I think he learned that, we would, if we lost, it wasn't his fault. You know what I'm saying? So he would put the whole responsibility of the game on himself, and he had 3 at bats, or he had maybe 2 plays in the outfield, or whatever it was. And, you can't, over 162 games, you can't do that. You can't, you mentally, you won't last if you do that. So over the years, he's learned, okay, we lose as a team, we win as a team. I'm going to do everything I can in that game to make sure we succeed. And if we don't, evaluate it after the game. When I leave the field, I'm on to the next one. I think that's how you try to combat some of these losing situations or losing streaks. I think, it can kind of go back to what we were talking about in 15 and with Bregman a little bit. You get a team that, and this is like a positive, negative thing. You get a team that cares so much that you have each individual up there trying to win the game every single swing. And that's where those games, those streaks can kind of get a little bit longer. And I think Dansby, I saw an interview he did a while back where he's just like, we all care and we're all pressing. Something along those lines. I'm not quoting him, but everybody in that clubhouse cares and they all want to win the game. And sometimes a clubhouse can care too much and get in their own way. And I think that's where, especially talented teams. Now, if you don't have a talented team, you're going to kind of expect these losing streaks, but you have a talented team like they do. You get guys up there pressing and trying to hit, the grand slams with nobody on. And that's where, those streaks can maybe get a little bit prolonged.
Yeah, I think we've talked here. It's probably a whole entire episode if you want to talk about kind of leadership and chemistry, but just something. David Ross has been in the news this week of being linked to the Mets job. Maybe, that's kind of the beginning of a search that you won't start in earnest probably till the offseason. But I think it's been kind of nice to see him kind of reemerge during those losing streaks. There were people on Twitter like, where's that David Ross fire? It's just funny how things sort of work. I think where's Rossi? Where's the director of Red Ass? Just lighting people up, and I think his tenure in Chicago, it didn't look bad when he left, but I think it looks better over time, and I think you're obviously much closer to it, John, but as an outside observer, I think it's been nice to see him kind of back on ESPN, like back out doing his podcast with Rizzo. People are probably sick of Rizzo on TV at this point, but I think Ross coming. Like I think when you have a 10-year reunion, sometimes you need there's a reason why it's 10 years. Whether it's Schwarber, Ross, it didn't. Joe Madden, it didn't end. It wasn't a fairy tale script, and I think that the 10-year buffer is nice, is probably warranted in a lot of cases.
Yeah, to your point with Rossi, it is nice to see him back in the game a little bit. He's got a lot of knowledge in there, and to comment on the people saying, where's the Rossi fire and that sort of thing. The hard part with the big leagues is most of the time when you're in those stretches, it's not necessarily bad baseball. It can be a little bit of bad luck. You get second and third with 2 outs and a guy hits a screamer to the shortstop and it's right at him. It's part of the game. It sucks. And, when you're going well, he hits the ball off his handle with a broken bat and it falls over the shortstop. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's not always just needing the fire. Now, with that being said, if you're playing shitty baseball, then you need to get your butt torn up. If you're making mental errors, physical errors are one thing. Physical errors are physical errors. I've had this conversation with both of my kids on the batting side and on the fielding side. I said, listen, that's not the last error, or that's not the first error or the last error you're ever going to make if you continue to play baseball. I'm like, that's not the first strikeout or the last strikeout with, runners in scoring position you guys are going to have. This game sucks, but it's also beautiful when you really dive into it. So, the fire part of it is needed at certain points of the season. And, I think, fans sometimes get lost in the fact of, they only see what's on the field, right? They don't see what's in the clubhouse. They don't see or hear what's heard in the clubhouse. They don't hear the message that whoever the manager is portraying to the guys and the pitching coaches and the hitting coaches and the grind that goes into it, which I think is sometimes good, but in losing situations it can be bad. So, but yeah, the 10-year thing, man, is nice. It's nice to come back and see guys and hang out, and you start remembering other guys that were a part of it, and stories that were linked to those guys, and all those memories kind of come back, and you start talking about the season. You forget certain aspects of the season and what happened here and what happened there, and big moments and funny moments, and all that stuff. So it is good to have a break, and then it's nice to come back kind of like our hair's on fire, even if you don't have any, and get back together and enjoy each other's company.
Jon, we're going to bug you plenty about that 10-year reunion and other things. You'll be a regular guest with us, which is great. We're looking forward to having you on regularly, talking about this current team, talking about the old team, and just having you share your knowledge with us. It's really great that you're able to do this. But let's wrap this one up. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Thanks for joining us, Jon. This is Northside Territory. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are on top of all things Cubs. Thanks for listening and watching, everyone. Take care.